My main man Joe Kane is in the building with us. City Council candidate, 14th Councilmatic District. Thanks for joining us, man.
Thank you for having me, son.
Oh, not a problem, man. So, on your website, and I'm looking at his website, you can see it as well right there, www.joekaneforbaltimore.com. JoeKane for Baltimore. You talk about being raised in Waverly and Edinburgh Gardens, the eldest of 4 boys to a single parent mother. You know, I know those struggles, Mom, I love you. Attending the local PAL Center before going to serve your country at 19 in the U.S. Army in Iraq. How did that shape your world?
Yeah, that's a good question. Growing up in Waverly, Edinburgh Gardens, people are like, how did you grow up in 2 neighborhoods? You know, to a single mother, we moved almost every year, like literally. Sometimes we moved around the corner, you know. And I think that having mentors at the PAL Center and having mentors in my life, people who poured in, kind of gave me and my brothers that structure and filled the gap when my mother really couldn't, because she was out working 2-3 jobs to make ends meet, right? And so I ended up joining the Army after high school. I went to Northern High School, and while working there, I had my first job at the Great Cookie down at the University of Maryland. And the manager, Ms. Carroll, she said, you need to do something after high school, because she knew I wasn't going to college, right? And so she brought her nephew down there, and he signed me up for the Army, and I ended up joining the Army without anyone knowing. Ended up spending 4 years in the Army, one of those years over in Baghdad, and came back and just really focused, if you will. You can imagine seeing what we saw over in Baghdad and the experiences we had really put life into perspective being so young.
Man. So your mom didn't argue like, boy, you joining that white man's war?
Listen, my grandma, that's the one.
So you talked about the Algebra Project, wonderful program that I know all too well, the NAACP. It seems like you have that activism background, right? How did that shape you to wanting to become a member of the Baltimore City Council?
Yeah, so I came home from the Army, and I was a student at Morgan State University. And I tell people, I never forget the day I was in the convocation, and all my favorite professors on the stage talking about Obama being president, right? What it means. And this young man named Chris Goodwin stood up and challenged all of them. And I was like, who is this brother and what is he talking about? And so after engaging them and really figuring out what he was talking, what his message was, I ended up joining up with them. They were organizing around how do we stop more prisons from being built at the time, a youth prison, and wanted to divert funds into education in Baltimore City. And so from there, I just became, really just energized around like, this is how we can make a difference. I tell you this, when I left the Army and I came to Morgan, people said, my guidance counselors, they said, what do you want to do with this experience in Morgan? I wanted to be some big-time oil executive studying Arabic. I was studying Arabic to work over the Middle East between U.S. Middle East relations, right? And then like experiences like with Chris Goodman and the Algebra Project really focused me to really understand that we have a lot of work to do here in Baltimore. And so 10 years of doing this work, 10 years of watching people like Doc Cheatham pull up with a chair, a table, and a voter registration card to register people to vote. All the work I've done up until this point has been around how do we empower people, really educating our community about the power we have and how we can be the ones to change the dynamic down at City Hall and beyond.
Assalamu alaikum, my brother.
That's a legal salam,
How well does that Arabic help you in the 14th district?
It got me A, in class.
It'll get you into some doors, though. I'm telling you, we got some Muslim brothers and
That's
sisters
right.
over there in the 14th.
Right.
So now you're running over there in the 14th. The current incumbent, Mary Pat Clark, is leaving after 100 years in office, right? Or it feels like that, since the 1970s. Mind you, she was in the council, then council president, and ran for mayor unsuccessfully, back to the council. So now you have a wide open seat. What are some of the main issues that you're focused on in your run for council?
Yeah, I think if you look back at to when Councilwoman Clark first came to the council in '76ish, like the thing for her was she was a parent of 4 children in city schools. She wanted to be that person who on the other side of the phone you would call when there was a problem in city schools. She was a champion for how do we move our city forward. She had a sense of urgency, She had a fight with her, that was as admirable. And today, that's what I want to bring that sense of urgency back to the 14th district, put people's voices at the center of decision making. When we think about like education, everyone tells me, Joe, you can't run on a platform of education in Baltimore City. I'm like, that is the most absurd thing ever. whether we have control over Baltimore City Public Schools or not, that does not release us of our obligation to do something in city schools. So as a person who has been organizing for the last 10 years in city schools, there are pressure points that we can use within the system to make change, like school family councils, parent-teacher organizations, the Parent Community Advisory Board. I currently serve there. We have all these pressure points where we can organize parents to really understand the different ways they can have an impact on our city education. But also public safety. We've done everything we can think of with money when it comes to public safety. More than billions of dollars into public safety over the last few years, and we've seen what many would call very few results, right? We have to change that. We have to change that dynamic. We have to get back to a community-centered public health approach. How do we put understand the systemic things, the systemic issues that got us here? Understanding that we've dealt with the crack cocaine epidemic. We're in the third generation or fourth generation of crack cocaine in Baltimore, right? We have underfunded our schools for decades. We have lead, paint, poison. All these things have gone unaddressed, and now we look at our city like, well, how did we get here? You know, we have to get to the root cause. I tell people that it's like a car. If your check engine light comes on, you got to pull over and see what's going on. If you don't, your car's going to break down, right? Our check engine light in Baltimore has been on for more than 50 years, and we've kept driving this car, and now the car's broke down. We're like, what happened? How do we fix it? We got to get back to why the check engine light came on in the first place. Right. And so for me, it's about really digging down to the root causes, organizing people back into the political process, because there's also a correlation between, you know this, voter turnout. Our voter turnout since Schaefer has just gone literally downhill. We've seen some upticks here and there, but steadily on a decline. And so people are tired. People have been rocked to sleep. People are tired. People are surviving here in our city. So we have to really organize people back into the process so we can move our city forward on every front.
Yeah, and it's interesting you talk about the school family council.
Yep.
I'm on a called the Parent Power Committee, right?
They're
organized by Teachers Democracy Project.
That's my people over there. That's a family.
And you'd be surprised how many parents do not even know that the school family council exists in the schools.
I gave last year. I gave I don't know, a talk, or I presented. I spoke at a Teachers Democracy Project event where I talked about parent power. Like, that was literally my whole discussion. Like, how do we empower parents to realize their power within the Baltimore City Public Schools? The School Family Council, not to get off track here, but it's important. The School Family Council is the engine for every school in Baltimore City. It's like a board. And if you work that board, there are some schools in this city who are working their boards. You look at Roland Park, you look at my daughters go to BSA, they're working those boards, you know? So we have to get there and organize around those mechanisms that move our school forward. And so School Family Council is the biggest one. But it's not, I hate to put it all on the parents, right? Because as a member of the Parent Community Advisory Board, we challenge district. Like, district, what are you doing to get this message out about school family councils? If every school is supposed to have a school family council, why don't they? What are you doing to support principals and communities around, making sure that they have those things in place? So school family council is probably the most important thing Baltimore City has created within the school system to make change.
Well, I want to thank you then, because it sounds like your speech to them is what empowered them to bring this new project that they got, the parent power. That's exactly what it was named after what you said.
Yeah, Rebecca,
around school family counseling.
With TDP, Rebecca, and that whole some man name, he's gonna kill me for not knowing. They'll kill. But that whole what they're doing around parent power is important. And I think that and we have to support all organizations around in Baltimore City that are doing the work to uplift parents, communities' voices in our schools.
Absolutely. So, get back to this council run, because I mean, this is still important, right?
Right.
Schools are very much important, and it's an important fabric in our system. I really want you to kind of focus on, if elected, I think I probably know the answer to this, but what committee or committees would you like to be a part of and or chair, and what issues would you be a champion of as that council?
And it probably sounds natural to say, oh, he's going to say education. I do want to be on the education committee, you know. If not chaired, right now it's chaired by Councilman Zeke Cohen. think he's doing a great job, previously chaired by Councilwoman Mary Pat Clark, you know. So I think that that I would be a strong advocate in those spaces of advocating for our students, helping our city understand the pressure points that we have within the system, but also as someone who's been inside the district as a parent advocate. I don't get paid by anybody. As the parent advocate, I found these pressure points, and really we could share out and use that bully pulpit to make sure parents know those pressure points are there. But also the public safety, the safety committee. We need we have a safety committee chair there now, but we need to make sure that our city is focused on trauma informed. We're putting addressing the systemic issues. We know what we'll get when we put $500 million into policing. We know what we get with that. You know, what do we get when we take and broaden the definition of public safety to include high quality and functioning schools? Public safety should be more encompassing than just policing. It should include all the things that make up a good community. And so as on the public safety committee, I will work to expand that definition of public safety to make sure that we include in all things. I'll give you an example of how we're doing that now. Over in Edna Gardens Lakeside, I serve as the second vice president on the board, but I also chair the public safety committee. And last year we had a young man named Rashard Queen, 20 years old. He got murdered on the end of my block. And when he was murdered, we were tight knit block. Everybody knows everybody. I just saw my neighbor today. They just had their baby, 3 days old. And so everybody knows everybody. But we all felt powerless and defenseless about how could we have prevented this young man from losing his life. Fast forward, I went to the Baltimore Book Festival last year. I heard a woman named Tara Huffman give a presentation on just community-centered, like public safety. And I chased her down afterwards like a crazy man and was like, hey, we need to talk. And so after our long conversations, we ended up creating a partnership between our community association and OSI Baltimore around community-centered public safety. What would a community look like if we had the resources, if we had the say into developing our own public safety strategy to keep our community safe? And so we're doing that work now, and that's the kind of work I want to expand across the 14th district.
Speaking of public safety and education, there's a hot button issue that the council probably won't have a say all but to bring a resolution in support of at the Maryland General Assembly, which would arm our officers, school police officers, inside of schools. I know, but for those who might not have seen previous shows, where do you stand on an issue like that?
Yeah, I think keeping our children safe, our people that work, our school community safe, is the number one top priority while our children in school. I have 4 children in city schools, and I just fear, I respect everyone who's there keeping them safe during the day. I think as a city, we need to be doing, as a district, we need to be doing more about how do we prevent weapons from entering into our school in the first place. We can talk about, we don't want to, create fortresses where our children are going places. We have to get back again to those systemic issues that will cause someone to want to bring a gun or weapon to school in the first place. And so I was a strong, outspoken advocate against expanding the definition to allow officers to carry guns in school during the school day who are assigned to schools. That's a sharp detail, because currently officers who aren't assigned to schools can walk through any school, right? But the ones who are assigned to school dealing with children throughout the day, those are the ones that should not be around students with guns, because of all kind of incidents that happen with that gun. And I must say that we under Commissioner Chief Ham, we have the best Baltimore School Police Department, if not the best policing agency in Baltimore City, in that Baltimore City School Police. And so it's not a matter of are they capable. Listen, our city police to take a lesson from them, But for me, it's about how do we prevent weapons from entering into our schools in the first place? How do we get really into the culture of our city that will make someone want to carry a weapon to school to solve a conflict? Because it's more about conflict resolution the first that drives someone to kind of want to solve it that way. We have to get down to those core issues. Because let me tell you something, Hassan. We could put 10 officers at every school, right? That won't stop the person from wanting to bring the gun to school. Right. We have to figure out how do we get into the fabric of the culture of our city to kind of change that dynamic.
All right. Well, I see it's a family issue. Your wife, Angelique, is on there,
she gets
posting the
that
website and everything. Oh, my goodness. That's what I'm talking about. So you got 2 major endorsements recently. My senator, Mary Washington, came out in support of you, as well as my comptroller, not the cities, but the states, Peter Franchos, came out in support. How huge of a momentum booster was that for you?
To be honest, as a young man from Northeast Baltimore, Waverly. It was the biggest honor I've received so far in my life, to have these people who I look up to come down and support our campaign. But it's something special about Senator Washington and Comptroller Francho. These, whether you like their positions on issues or not, these are two independent voices down in Annapolis that you can count on to speak up for what they believe and not be pushed around by party bosses, right? And so that's the attitude. I hope that's what they saw in me, someone who will take down the city hall and really be an independent voice for District 14, fighting for the issues that matter. A lot of times in our city, policies or issues get dictated by forces that don't even live in your district. And I think while that may be the way things have been done in the past, we have to change that trajectory if we want to move our city forward, and that's what I'm out here working on.
All right, yeah, you hear it. Straight from the horse's mouth, my man, Joe Kane, running for Baltimore City Council in the 14th Councilmatic District. You can reach him www.joekaneforbaltimore.com. If they want to reach out to the campaign, be involved, donate, how else can they reach the campaign?
One of the lessons you learn from Councilwoman Clark, right, is you need to be in contact. So call my cell phone, 443-726-7599. That's the same number my wife has. So feel free to give me a call. You can check us out on the website. But also, listen, I gotta say this piece. If you feel inspired by what you heard from me, donate. If you didn't, find someone who inspires you and donate to them in this city. We have to get back into the political process. We have to make sure that our voices are the ones at the center of decision making. And the only way to do that is not just donate, but get involved, do something to really take back our city.
All right, Joe Kane, thank you so much
for
joining us today on this marathon of interviews for Value My Vote for 2020. I'm your man, Mr. Politics, and we'll be back in about 2 minutes with another interview with a candidate from the 9th Councilmatic District.